Hello, amazing friends. So can I just tell you, I'm actually really nervous, like right now, to be going live with you on this topic. Like, I'm actually really nervous. Like, my heart is palpitating right now. I can kind of like feel the nerve setting in. Like, I didn't even want to talk about this. And I don't even like to talk about fear because it has been so crippling in my life. And I just thought it was like the perfect time to talk about fear because I am getting LASIK done tomorrow and I am like a ball of nerves, like a ball of nerves. And fear is something that I've had to learn to overcome for 7 years now. 7 years now, I've had to really be strategic in the way I've thought about things, in the way that my daily actions are, the way I surround myself with certain situations and people, because fear has been something that has crippled me. And fear and anxiety are very close friends. Fear and anxiety like to be BFFs. And if you're someone that has struggled with anxiety, or if you are someone that has struggled with fear, usually those two things go hand in hand, because most of the time fear triggers anxiety and an anxious body, an anxious heart, an anxious mind. Same with stress. Stress can induce fear. It's like this big happy family that likes to torment you, okay? And fear is something that has taken me out mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And because I am predisposed to anxiety and being anxious and feeling stressed out, a situation that arises like tomorrow, having surgery on my eyeballs and having my eye cut kind of freaks me out. And I can feel the fear creeping in, and even thoughts of, I can't go through with this. I can't do this. Like, I can't do this because what if something goes wrong? And all of these circumstantial events happen in our lives. And it's easy that we allow these events to take us out, like just to take us out and to steal our joy and to steal us to really walking into our place of greatness of who God has called us to be. And I'm going to go over a couple little tips with you of things that have helped me overcome fear. But really, I want to be honest with you, I am still overcoming fear. I am still a work in progress. And like I said, like I am nervous talking about this because I'm not at my destination with overcoming fear. I know that I will probably always battle fear in different areas of my life because I'm a worry wart. Anyone else a worrier? Worriers tend to be fearful. Worriers tend to be anxious people. It just that lovely category of people, okay? And, like I just thought it was the perfect time for me to talk about the steps and the tips and the tricks that I've done, especially with like this circumstantial event that's happening tomorrow for me, that I'm going to get my eyeballs cut open, okay? And I'm already preparing myself. And this is key, is that when you struggle with fear, you have to be proactive. You have to be super proactive with multiple things in your life so that you don't live a life of fear, that you live a life of joy and freedom. So out of all of my tips, I'm going to tell you my number one tip right now. My number one tip for you, and really the number one thing that's helped me overcome my fear, and that is my relationship with the Lord. When I was at my worst of my worst, consumed with fear and anxiety. And if you want to hear my tips on how I overcame anxiety and how I'm overcoming anxiety, I already did a video on that. If you want it, I can share it with you. But fear is crippling. And for me, my relationship with the Lord, when I became deeply rooted in my quiet time with the Lord, doing my devotions, in prayer, being in prayer, all of that helped me believe that God had a bigger plan for my life and that his plan was more perfect and more beautiful than all of those fears and all of those worries that I had for my life. Jeremiah 29:11 talks about that, how God has a plan to prosper you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. That is like my life verse. I actually have something I'm going to share with you right here that helps me overcome fear, kind of partner with my anxiety. But that was the number one thing that helped me overcome my debilitating fear, and even my fear like tomorrow about having the surgery, that God is in control. I'm going to let my faith be bigger than my fear, that I'm not going to walk in worry, and I'm not going to walk in fear of the unknown, because he's got my back. And I'm going to be confident in him that he is going to take care of any and every situation that comes my way. So let me just preface that before I go into my tips, because it is my faith. It is God that has helped me overcome so many aspects of fear in every single way. One quote that I absolutely love is that on the other side of your fear is your freedom. On the other side of your fear is your freedom. So whatever you're going through, on the other side of that fear is your freedom. I promise you, because it was that way for me. When I learned to look past the fear, when I learned to embrace the fear, that's when I found my freedom. That is when you find your freedom. So take some notes and let's go through some steps on how you can overcome your fear, just like I am overcoming my fear of, tomorrow and just any other thing that comes my way. So number one is I want you to start viewing fear from a rear view mirror. What I mean by that is I want you to look at situations from a rear view mirror when you start to fear things. So let me give you a perfect example, okay? Is I want you to look back at a time that you were afraid, but you let your faith be bigger than your fear. And then I want you to look at the outcome. So a perfect example for me is airplanes. For the longest time, I had a huge fear about riding on airplanes. Like, I actually can remember my first airplane when I started to struggle with fear and anxiety. I can still remember the first time I had to fly on an airplane without my husband. Oh my gosh, I can feel the nerves in my body right now. I can actually experience and feel what that felt like. It was probably like 5 years ago. And I took my first plane ride to California. Literally, I earned a leadership trip with my business, with my coaching business. I earned a trip and I went to California. They flew me out. And I remember I have to get on this airplane. I have to get on an airplane by myself without my husband for the first time in my entire life, and also leave my 3 kids home alone. And these fears of like, what if the plane crashes? What if my kids don't have a mom anymore? What if something happens to me on the airplane and no one can help me or save me? Like, that's the downward spiral of what fear can do to you. It's like these irrational thoughts. Well, on the airplane, I can still remember I made this post on Facebook about here I am sitting on an airplane. I'm not having to take a Xanax to get on this airplane. And I'm going to face my fears and find my freedom on the other side of this airplane ride. And you guys, I did it. I sit here today and I tell you, I got on that airplane ride that I dreaded for almost a month of fear, a month of stress, a month of like, I could barely function because I was so afraid of the what ifs. But when you look in the rear view mirror and you say, oh my gosh, I was afraid of that, but why the heck was I afraid of that? I had such an incredible time. I was able to fly to California to enjoy this incredible trip, to receive knowledge, to fill up my cup as a wife, as a woman, as a mama, as a leader. And I was able to be blessed in the process. So always look at fear in a rear view mirror. Look at circumstances in the past that maybe you feared, and it's going to put things into perspective that most of the time there's no need to fear. There's no need to fear because there's most likely a positive outcome, and you're going to experience so many blessings when you can look at it that way. Because your greatest fears are usually your greatest waste of time. I spent an entire month being afraid of getting on that airplane, when I probably missed out on moments of joy and laughter with my children. I missed out on moments with my husband. I missed out on quality sleep because I lived in fear because of this airplane ride. And I can apply the same situation. It's so applicable to me having this LASIK surgery tomorrow because I've already thought in my head the fears, the what ifs. But I've got to stop and say, why am I afraid? Why am I afraid of this? This is going to be such a wonderful experience. I'm not going to be blind as a bat. Colors are going to be different. I can go swimming in the pool with my kids without my contacts falling out and being, blind and having to get out. You got to switch your perspective, okay? Face your fears. Here's another quote that I love. Face your fears with truth, that they are all in your mind and that they will lose power once you begin to embrace them. You've got to start embracing those fears, because if you don't, you're just wasting your life away. You're wasting your life away living in fear. Okay, second little perspective on fear is I want you to flip the fear. Flip the fear. What do I mean by that? Is you need to look at it at a different perspective. And I said that before, is look at it in a different perspective. Break the fear down. Why are you afraid? Like, what's going on? Like, why are you afraid of X, Y, and Z? And I actually learned this strategy from my counselor because I went to counseling. I went to counseling when I struggled with postpartum anxiety. I went to counseling for a couple years just to help myself learn and understand what I was going through. And it was the best experience ever. And I recommend it to anyone. But there was a 4-step process. So you're going to flip the fear, but the way you're going to flip it is in a 4-step approach. It's called ABCD. And this is something that I did when I was in the worst of my worst situation with anxiety and fear. Was you got to get a journal out for this. It's really therapeutic to write it down. But I can now do it like in my brain mentally. It's called ABCD. ABCD, and this is how you're going to start flipping your fear. And this can apply to anxiety. This can apply to stress in your life, but let's really apply it to fear right here. Is A, B, C, D. A is the activating event. It's the action. So I'm going to give an example of me having this surgery because I think this is really relevant to my certain circumstance right now. Is A, activating event is that I am getting LASIK surgery done and I am scared out of my mind. Okay, that's the activating event. B, the belief. And this is something that you can journal. And my counselor had me journal this so I could go back and reflect and see my irrational thoughts. Okay, so my activating event, the action, was that I'm getting LASIK tomorrow and I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid of it. So what's the belief? What's the belief behind this activating event? Why am I feeling fear? Why am I feeling anxious? Well, my belief is that what if something goes wrong? What if something goes wrong with the surgery and la-di-da-di-da and like, what if something goes wrong? That's my belief, that something could go wrong. And that's why I'm starting to have fear and feel anxiety. Okay. And then what is the circumstance? Okay. So the belief is, oh, Holly, your counselor had you do the same thing. I love that. The process is amazing. The process is absolutely incredible. So what is let me write this down. I'm putting it over here. So A is activating event or actions. B is belief. C is what's the consequence? So what happens when you take that activating event or that action and you start to believe these fear-based thoughts? What if something goes wrong in the surgery? What if they mess up? What if I don't have my vision corrected and I have to go back and have more surgery? The consequence is that I start to get anxious. My heart starts to begin to palpitate. I start to have a headache because I'm afraid. I start to have shaky hands. I start to have sweaty palms. I start to lose focus and clarity because of all of these beliefs of fear associated to fear. And then you go to D. This is where you're breaking down the fear. You go to the dispute. What is the dispute? Facts for facts. There are hundreds and thousands of people that have had LASIK surgery and have never had an issue. My doctor that I'm going to is the best of the best in the state of Florida and performs like over 50,000 LASIK surgeries and has never had an issue. That's me disputing the fear. That is me disputing the belief. And when you break it down like that, you're like, oh, I got nothing to worry about. Everything's fine. So that is flipping the fear and dissecting it into 4 parts. Activating event. What is your belief of the fear? What is the consequence of you having this fear? And then how are you going to dispute the fear? Because most of the time when you dispute it, you're like, I shouldn't be afraid. Okay. So I literally lived by those and I still do them. I'm doing them right now for my surgery tomorrow. Okay. Next step number 3 is be in the moment. Be in the moment. Be in the moment, ladies. Be in the moment. Be in the moment. Do you know why I say that? Because this is most of the time when you are feeling fear and anxiety, it's because you're thinking about the future. Most of the time when you are feeling fearful, when you are feeling anxious with that fear, it's because you're thinking about the future and you're not in the moment. You're not being present. You're not being in the moment. Because if you're being present and if you're being in the moment, I should be thinking joyful thoughts. I should be thinking positivity. I should be celebrating that I'm going to be able to see clear tomorrow, that I'm going to be able to, you know, do things that I haven't been able to do because I've lived in contacts and glasses for my last 20 years of my life, or however long that is, since 5th grade. I should be in a place of positivity and joy. When you are in the present, you experience joy. When you focus on the future, most of the time, you are in a place of fear. So be in the moment. Relish in the achievements. Relish in the things that you're being blessed with. Focus on that, okay? Number 4, this is a really, really important one. A really, really important step on overcoming fear and, you know, having that freedom in your life is you got to cut out the negativity. Cut out the negativity. So ask yourself, you got to do like a scan of what books are you reading? What TV shows, what movies are you watching? I might step on toes here, but the people you're surrounding yourself, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with. So if you are surrounding yourself with people that are negative, that do not speak positivity over your life, that constantly pick apart other people, that constantly look at the negative in things, that's going to increase your fear. I purposely don't watch a lot of news. I purposely do not watch a lot of news because of the negativity. And when you are someone that is prone to fear, I can't consume too much fear-based information because it triggers my fear. Movies. There are certain movies. You will never watch me or see me watching a scary movie because in the past, I was very afraid to stay home by myself when my husband traveled. So if I'm watching movies that are fearful and that make me scared, then I'm going to struggle with staying home alone by myself when my husband travels. So I changed what I was watching on TV. Again, in people, who are the people that you are surrounding yourself with? Immerse yourself in joy. Immerse yourself in positivity. And I'm going to give you a couple things that I've done that kind of like sum up all of these different steps. So cut out the negativity. Cut out the negativity. And number 5, the last thing is protect your bedtime and your morning time. You got to protect both. And what I mean by that is you got to have some type of bedtime routine and morning routine that puts positivity into your brain. If you're going to bed consuming, again, remember what I said, cut out the negativity. If you're going to bed with screen time, if you're going to bed with your phone in your face, digesting, you know, maybe news or digesting social media that is negative, if you are intaking, just like I said, things that are not giving you life, you're going to have a hard time going to bed and your brain's going to be going and you're going to be thinking negative thoughts, what ifs, and you're going to start worrying. Same with your morning routine. When you wake up in the morning, is the first thing that you're doing is looking on the internet? Is the first thing that you're doing is jumping into that, you know, text thread with your girlfriends and start gossiping about other people? Like, what are you feeding yourself before you go to bed and when you wake up? Because if you know anything about me, I'm all about winning your morning routine, but I'm also about winning your bedtime routine. And what you put in at night is going to be what you struggle with while you're laying in bed. And same with your morning routine. So look at your bedtime routine. Look at your morning routine. And are you feeding the fear when you put your head down on your pillow at night? And are you waking up with fear with the things that you're doing? Because that was a huge component for me to overcoming fear and still overcoming fear. Last night when I went to bed, you guys, I didn't sit up and watch something that was negative. I read my book. I read my affirmations. I journaled a little bit. I prayed a little bit. I took a couple deep breaths before I went to bed, and I got myself in the right place. I used, I totally forgot the word. Oils, essential oils. I put essential oils on my pillow. I put lavender on my pillow before I go to bed. There are things that you can do to create an environment of peace and not fear. Same with the morning. In the morning when I wake up, I have a minute of like prayer and meditation. Actually, I do 5 minutes of it. I set my timer so I can be really intentional. I read 10 minutes. I do things that set my brain and my mindset in the right place, okay? And then the last thing is this, is Fear is a real thing. And I know that there are a lot of you out there that are facing things in life that are real. They're not just like thoughts and beliefs. They are real. But something that I have learned in counseling with fear is that the more you accept it, the more you overcome it. And fear can be like sinking sand. The more you fight it, the more it's like the fear gets bigger. It's like the elephant in the room. So if you can embrace the fear and if you can put these steps into place, number 6, accepting it is going to be so much easier. Accept the fear. Accept that maybe some of your thoughts are real and they are rational, but you can choose to find the positivity. You can choose to overcome that fear by some of the things that you were thinking and some of the things that you were doing and some of the things that you're surrounding yourself with. So what are some tangible things that I do? Those are like my tips for you to overcome fear and how I've overcome them. But what are like specifics that I've done? Affirmations. I speak positive affirmations over my life every day. Not just affirmations of I'm going to do this in my life, or I'm going to have like a dream house, or I'm going to like be out of debt. Not that type of affirmation. I'm talking about affirmations of I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I walk in joy and peace. I go to bed and I sleep peacefully for 8 hours. It is literally affirmations about you. I am worthy of love and affection. I can walk in grace. I can fly on an airplane and enjoy the airplane ride. Like literally whatever you struggle with on a fear-based level, flip it. Remember what I said, flip the fear? Flip the fear and start saying you can and I will and I am, not fear related to that affirmation. I talked about scriptures and verses, how I talked about the number one way that I have overcome fear is through my relationship with the Lord and just being stronger and rooted in my faith, but scripture and verses. So I'm going to show this to you guys. So this is something that, gosh, let me see what time it is. I got to get my kids from school. I gotta hurry up, okay? This is something that when I first started to struggle with fear and anxiety, I wrote down scriptures and I wrote down, really this is all scriptures that I could say every morning and every evening. Remember what I said, protect your bedtime and protect your morning time. And every time I would go to bed and every time I would wake up, I would read these scriptures. And this was actually taped into my bathroom. It literally has markings all over it. I'm surprised it has survived 7 years. But these are scriptures that I wrote down that really spoke life into my life when I was in debilitating fear. And on the other side, my husband actually wrote a note to me before he traveled for a work trip. So I have that here. But different scriptures, different things I had wrote down. You are not what you feel, you are what you believe. Think like God thinks and say what God says and you'll have victory. Isaiah 41:10, fear not, for I am with you. Do not look around you in terror and be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and harden you to difficulties. I will help you and hold you up and retain you with my victorious right hand. Trust in, be confident in the Lord with all your heart and mind. Like literally, it's all scriptures based around fear. And then this one was like my nighttime verse. My nighttime verse was Proverbs 3:24-26. You can go to bed without fear. You will lie down and sleep soundly. You need not be afraid of sudden disaster or destruction that comes upon the wicked, for the Lord is your security. He will keep your foot from being caught in a trap. So those are scriptures that the first one was the one that I just said, you are not what you feel, you are what you believe, that one. Those are sayings by Joyce Meyer. Joyce Meyer, if you are someone that really struggles with your mindset, Joyce Meyer is amazing. Battlefield of the Mind, Power Thoughts, 2 incredible books. Those are quotes from her. And yes, these are all rest scripture. So scripture, prayer, oh my gosh, everything. Books, I just recommended 2 books that have helped me with my thoughts. Battlefield of the Mind, Power Thoughts, incredible books. You guys, I went to counseling. That was everything. Journaling. And then there's a final thing, and this is actually something that my counselor did, is it's called tapping. And tapping is a process that allows you to like get rid of the fear. It allows you, and it's like a process where you tap through like the different points. Like it's almost like it's trigger points in your body, and you say like you're disconnecting the fear from the actual truth. And that's a process that I learned in counseling. You could probably Google it. It's called tapping. And it's something that I did when I was in a very fearful place, before my anxiety would set in. So like if something I was afraid of, if I could feel my panic setting in, I would do this tapping technique and it would break the fear so that I wouldn't go into a panic attack. It was amazing and it was incredible. So that's really all of my tips on fear. I don't know why I was so nervous to talk about it. I think because it's something that I still, there's EFT. Yeah, tapping. It's very similar to EFT, Kristen. Yeah. So it's not EFT. It's a little bit different tapping technique. It could be that, but I just called it tapping. Also, there's another type of therapy as well for fear. It's called art therapy, and my mom actually does this. So my mom's a therapist. Her name is Carol Bermude, and my mom is a therapist. She's like the best therapist in the entire world. She's amazing. She's a counselor, and she obviously helps me a lot with overcoming fear and anxiety. But she does this therapy. It is called art therapy, and it's a specialized therapy for, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's for major life events that have triggered therapy. So for me, I have white coat syndrome because I have a lot of issues that happened when I was during my pregnancies that triggered fear. So this is a therapy that could be done on that, which she's gonna do that on me. I have just postponed it. But any type of events that have triggered severe anxiety and fear, this is a technique that literally turns it off in one session. It's a very specific therapy session. It's called art. So if you don't live here locally, ask and look around. It's called art. And that's for really debilitating fear, I would say. You can reach out to my mom, Carol Bermude, if you live here in the Tampa Bay area. She's amazing. But tapping technique, art therapy, those are other forms for really debilitating fear. Okay. So yeah, I hope you guys could see the realness for me in this is that fear is something that I have had to overcome, but I am still overcoming. It is very real for me. It is something that I have to work on daily. I have to work on daily to walk in a place of fearlessness and positivity and joy because of that worry wart and that anxiety warrior in me. But learned from me that you can overcome fear, that you can be victorious with your fear, and that you can find your freedom just like I have. So take these steps, take some of my habits that I have implemented in my life, and I'll just be praying for all of you. I have a list, and I just pray every day for my women in my groups, and just for all of you to become fearless, and for my anxiety warriors out there, because I know that with him on your side, anything is capable. Hopefully this helps you, helps you overcome your fear. And, thanks for listening. And if there's anything else you want to learn, I was actually going to go live and share a recipe with you, but I felt like it would be more real and transparent for you to hear of a very relatable circumstance for me tomorrow getting surgery, that it's real. Fear is real, but you can overcome it. So thanks for listening. Go apply it to your life. If you have any questions, just comment below. Anything about resources or of the steps, I can share them again. And thanks for listening. You guys are awesome.